Let's open up this pit. My name is Adam Zuniga. I am the host of the Six Most Metal Breweries. I am a founding curator of the Knotfest Beer Pit. And in this moment, if you haven't noticed, I am not alone. I am proud to introduce Eddy Torres, the founder and host of RRBG Podcast. That stands for Rock and Roll Beer Guy, my neighbor here in Los Angeles, California, as well as Matt McGachy, the vocalist for Mighty Cryptopsy, as well as the founder and host of Vox and Hops Podcast, our neighbor to the north in Montreal, Canada. Hails, gentlemen. Thank you for joining.
Cheers to you. Thank you for having us and bringing us into the pit. Very, very stoked. How you feeling,
sir.
Eddy?
All right. I don't want to give it all away all at once. The Knotfest Beer Pit was a project born out of the pandemic, right? It's a direct-to-consumer subscription club, month to month, door to door. You get this box and all the beer and the contents therein. And what happened was breweries and bars and tap rooms were closed. Bands couldn't tour. So Slipknot's management came to me, 5B Artists Media, and said, we want to keep a dialogue going. We want to continue the conversation with our fans. We want to launch a home beer club. How do we do that? And I was able to connect with a lot of my friends in the beer industry that needed the sales, that needed the distribution, that aren't available nationally, much less outside of their home state. And the goal was to launch the most metal beer club in existence. Like all pregnancies, I've been in it for about 9-10 months now, and I want to see my baby out in the world. I want to see some other influences. I want it to smoke its first cigarette, and that is your job. I am proud to pass off the Knotfest Beer Pit to a series of guest curators, guest artists, beginning with Eddy in December, and then on to Matt in January. So, gentlemen, I am so happy to see you in the pit.
Yeah, I'm a pit veteran. I'm missing quite a few teeth thanks to lots of pits, lots of karate kicks, and this feels natural to me. Feels like home, especially with a beer in hand, which I happen to have.
There we go.
Yeah.
On that note, I think we should all start drinking and get this conversation going. We're going to do this round table style, starting with you, Eddy, for December, and then on to you, Matt, for January. So, Eddy, while I crack open a beer, tell us who you are and tell us what you're drinking.
All right. Well, for those of you not familiar, I am the host of the RRBG podcast. I was in a band called The Sever for 10 years. I played bass in a band called Vultures Are Wolves. And I was also in the beer business for about 8 years, selling beers for Cigar City Brewing, making beers for Cigar City Brewing,
Nice.
moving on to modern times here out in California. And right now I'm drinking actually something that was sent to me thanks to the gentlemen and ladies over at Widowmaker for this gigantium mastodon collaboration. It is a double New England IPA, so I'm going hard first. But yeah, I've been, like I said, I've been in the beer game for a long time. I've been in metal and playing in bands and the whole thing. So it's just a perfect fit for me to just be involved with this project. And I'm honored and humbled that you invited me to be a part of it, man. Cheers.
Most metal, the honor is mine, Eddy. I'm going to join you in this beer momentarily. Matt, let's move it over to you. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you're drinking.
Absolutely. I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy, the extreme metal band that's been running for quite some many years. I joined in 2007. I've released a bunch of albums with them. I've toured the world. I've played Wacken. I've played Hellfest. I've played Summer Breeze. I've played all across the globe. Back in 2018, I launched my podcast, Vox and Hops, where I have interviews with fellow metal musicians, talk about their lives, music, and craft beer, because I am an avid craft beer enthusiast. I am by no means a professional. I've never worked in the industry, but I have drank and tasted a bunch of craft beers. I love craft beer. I've made 35 collabs in the past 3 years with Vox and Hops, and some of them branded underneath my band Cryptopsy. Recently, we just dropped this one, which I'm about to drink. This is None So Vile. Nice. By New Level Brewing out in Alberta, Canada. This is a really, really cool beer because it's like a 3-way collab, because I also made a satanic tea, a Lavender Black Tea. It's a satanic tea with Pitch Black North, the satanic tea company. And this collab is so damn cool because this tea has hops in it, black tea with lavender and hops, and then we put the tea in the beer. So it's like this weird, wicked, wild thing. So it's a 6% lavender sour. It's absolutely amazing. It's got that blackened haze that Drew, the head brewer, is trying to coin as a term.
Blackened haze.
It's a bit wacky. Cheers to you guys. I'm very honored to be here.
Cheers.
Ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. I love the move towards tea and tea in beer for that matter.
How cool is it?
I am drinking Flavor of the Wheat from Low Res Brewing, a collaboration with Of Wolves, the band, in homage to their song Flavor of the Week. This was in the festival edition of the Knotfest Beer Pit. I want to say the August box. I have a feeling that Steve from Of Wolves is out there watching on the interwebs. So I want to make him proud here because this beer was designed to drink in 15 seconds or less. I'm not going to do that with my first can, but I'm going to do it with the second one. It says if it gets warm, you're drinking it too slow. I think that's probably the case for any beer. This one I'm going to savor so people can see it. It's a session wheat ale, clocks in at 4.7% alcohol. American wheat is a rare style these days, so I am glad to revisit it. For anyone watching out there at Twitch, we have Holly, our producer, the voice of God. Submit your questions to her and she will pass them along to us. And if you are drinking with us, make sure you have a beer handy for the end of this chat because we are all going to chug one together. And that's what I'm going to do with my second can of Flavor of the Wheat here. So on that note, most metal thanks. Most metal cheers again.
Cheers.
Cheers all around. Holly, they can't see you, but if you have a beer, I think you should join us.
Nice.
That's what she's drinking.
Man, I gotta say, this thing is like juice. It tastes like mango juice. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I love that there's 3 band beers happening right now. We have Mastodon, Cryptopsy, and Of Wolves. So while we're sipping, let's start chatting. Eddy,
yes,
Matt, tell us your stories. I want to know how you got into metal, how you got into beer, and where they crossed over for you.
Should I start?
Go for it, Eddy.
Yeah.
Well, I got into metal when I was young. I was very, very young. I would say 15. It was right after I got kicked out of Catholic school. I thought it was the best thing to do is run to the record store and buy all of the cassette tapes I could find that were satanic or anti-church. So I picked up a bunch of Danzig. I picked up a bunch of like Rob Zombie and some Metallica, some Nine Inch Nails. I put all that in this nice. I had this plastic, cassette case.
Yes,
I'm dating myself right now.
I love those.
Kids, back in the day, we had cassette tapes. No, I'm kidding.
We had to carry our music.
Yeah, we had to carry it
right now.
Yeah, I had them. Yeah, that's true. There's new bands dropping cassettes, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But so that's how I got into it. I mean, I just wanted everything that was anti, what I was raised with, because it was just, I really didn't like it. I got kicked out of Catholic school, so obviously I didn't like it. But that's the story of metal. And then I throughout my life, just discovering all the bands I could, Pantera and getting deeper and deeper, like between the Buried and Me, and just diving into death metal and finding out about the scene out in Norway and just how crazy it got over there, Behemoth and all that. So it was fun discovering all that. And then eventually I decided I wanted to start making my own music. So I started writing just stuff at home with a little recorder. Eventually I started throwing parties at my house and inviting bands to play. And one of the days I was like, you know what, I'm going to be one of the bands that plays, amongst all the other bands. I'll just do it myself with an acoustic or something and figure it out. And my buddies, Brian and Billy and Rue, they saw the performance and they hit me up like, you need a band? I'm like, yeah, let's go. So we just started playing music together. And then with beer, I remember being out with my wife, at the time we were just dating, but I remember going to a restaurant and seeing a Dogfish Head beer rep just chilling at the bar. And I remember looking at him and I looked at my wife. I'm like, I'm going to go talk to that guy. I want to know what he's doing. I go talk to him. He tells me what he's doing, selling beer, whatever. And I come back to my wife. I'm like, I want his job. And lo and behold, I ended up getting his exact job. I got his route. I got his position. Like he quit or I think he moved up and the opening happened and I just took it. So thankfully it all worked out. But I discovered craft beer touring with the band. Before that it was all King Cobra and Old E and whatever you can get your hands on at a gas station. And then once we got on the road, we started seeing things like Three Philosophers from Omegang, and we
Yeah.
saw Victory Golden Monkey. I was like, "There's a 9% beer. What is that?" And so got fell head over heels into the beer world. Started hanging out at every single event I could, tap takeovers, beer dinners, all the things, and eventually got a job with Cigar City Brewing. They gave me the opportunity to create a beer with Wayne Wombles, and talking to Joey Redner out there, and it became a pretty good successful beer for them. I think it's like their second bestseller. And then we also, while I was working there setting up for Hunapoo, that's the birth of the podcast. I was working Hunapoo, setting up tables. It was a big beer festival out there, and Adam D was there. He didn't even know what was going on. Adam D from Killswitch, and he was at the bar, and I told my boss, I'm like, give me a second. I ran to the bar. I'm like, are you Adam D? He's like, yeah, man. I'm like, I'm a big fan. He's like, I'm a fan of you guys. I'm like, well, come on, let's go to the brew house. I'll show you around. And he was in flip flops, so I got yelled at by all the brewers because they don't want flip flops in the brew house.
Yeah.
But it was cool. We hung out for a while, and eventually I'm just like, we should make a beer together, and we did. And we did the Killswitch beer, and that was the birth of the podcast. I told him, like, we should talk about this beer somehow, and I'll figure out a name for the show. And yeah, that was all of it. From there, it just kind of snowballed. I don't remember any of it because I've been drinking the whole time.
Yeah.
He's up to 250 episodes he just hit. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That is true.
250 episodes, and I think you celebrated a milestone birthday recently, and there's a lot to celebrate in your story, man. We all have similar stories, but these moments on our own are our own, and I really appreciate you sharing yours. I still want to know why you got kicked out of Catholic school.
Oh, I'll tell you real fast. They brought something up, and I was like, well, what about the dinosaurs? And they just started like, oh, it was temptation. It's temptation from Satan. And I just started laughing uncontrollably. To the point where I was literally rolling on the floor laughing and like hurting. It was just, I couldn't stop laughing. And the nuns started beating me.
Oh my God.
That made me laugh even more. So they called my mom. They're like, your kid's possessed and we want to do an exorcism. So I just kind of, from there, my mom came, picked me up, took me home, and I don't want to go back. I'm good. And they kicked me out.
That's horrible.
Still possessed to this very day, man.
I am still possessed.
Stay possessed. I love it. Matt, I want to hear the same from you. I just got a text from Steve of Wolves. He is in the chat, Steve, and I am enjoying your beer. Easy drinking, clear, clean wheat flavor, and I promise you I'm going to chug my second can at the end of all this. So stay tuned, my friend, and I hope you're drinking with us. Matt McGachy, same thing. I just want to know how you got into metal, how you got into beer. What was your moment with each, and when did they cross over?
Absolutely. I grew up discovering metal in the car with my father. My father is an avid 80s hair metal enthusiast. I really discovered a bunch of amazing music at that point. Guitar solos. He was really into Journey. He still loves Journey. The Black Album from Metallica. All the Rat and the Whitesnake. He just loved it all. Poison. He was just super into it. And I remember Guns N' Roses, driving in the car with my dad and him just explaining stuff to me about the lyrics and listening to this music. And it really captivated me. As a downfall, as things happen when you're a teenager, you want to rebel against what your parents have given you. So anything that had a guitar solo in it was immediately classified as dad music, and I didn't think it was cool, so I didn't give many bands a chance, which is why nu metal spoke to me so strongly, and I became a huge nu metal head. I was a nu metal child. I remember Marilyn Manson generally like terrifying me with those early videos, and that was basically the only exposure that you had, or you'd have to go pick up the magazines and just see the staged photo shoots, which were there and created to shock you. But it worked, and I was terrified but was super intrigued. Korn was a big thing. I got into Deftones. I got into Slipknot. I remember one of my first concerts was Slipknot when they were opening for Cold Chamber and Machine Head, and they just simply destroyed everyone that night. It was amazing. I was terrified in the pit. my first pit, and I was not ready to be in that pit, but I survived it, and I really, really enjoyed it. Kept getting heavier. I just kept listening to more and more extreme music. I used to indulge in things of other green natures outside of the hops, and whenever I would do that, I would hear this strange music in my head, and it turns out that it was death metal. I didn't know what death metal was, but I remember this feeling of like being in my parents' fridge and rummaging for munchies and having this extreme, strange music in my brain that I'd never heard before. And until I really discovered extreme metal through Cannibal Corpse and eventually joining Cryptopsy, I didn't understand what it was until I actually did that. So I jumped into Cryptopsy 2007, was not prepared for that. I was a metalcore singer that got thrown into Lord Worm's Big Black Boots, and I learned to swim with the sharks. I did my best and got through those early years of Cryptopsy, and I toured the world with a bunch of amazing people such as George from Cannibal Corpse, Travis from Cattle Decapitation, and I feel like I'm a little bit better of a death metal vocalist than I used to be. Beer started really, I started drinking shit beer just like everyone else. Craft beer, really, I'm very lucky being from Montreal. We have Unibrew, so those big 9% beers was not something new to me when I started touring the world and playing in Belgium. I already felt like there was something similar to being at home, and I had learned already how to handle those beers and know that you can't have more than one of those big boys before you end up having a horrible morning or a horrible rest of the night. So touring the world, and I remember like a very pinnacle night on that very first Cryptopsy tour. We were playing the Masquerade, the old Masquerade in Atlanta, and there was this little convenience store around the corner, and I went there with Chris Donaldson, the guitarist of Cryptopsy, and he was like, "This is super cool. Lord Worm used to drink this," and it was Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and that was one of the game-changing beers for me, discovering what bitter hops actually taste like versus just a crushable lager, a natty ice, something that's cheap and just as effective, something that has a flavor profile. So I brought that experience back home, and I started experimenting here in Quebec, which is when I started drinking the Unibrew stuff, and then I just wanted more and more and more, and I was just addicted to trying new things, and the Quebec craft beer scene really exploded microbrewery-wise. In about 2016, right when my daughter was born, and it's around that time that I really got addicted to it and just wanted to try and experience as many different styles of beer as possible. Hence why Vox and Hops was born.
I love it. I get it. I relate to everything both of you said, and I think everyone at home watching now understands why you are the curators in the months ahead for Knotfest Beer Pit. Again, even though it's a little bit different for each of us, we all share these moments, whether it was Sierra Pale, Unibrew, Le Fin du Monde, Omegang, Three Philosophers. I mean, I can tell you, I went back and forth between kind of New York and LA as an actor and wound up lost in Los Angeles, lost in the desert, lost by the ocean, and had that same craft beer epiphany, decided to see what I could do with it. Took it back to New York City because it was a younger market there at the time than it was in LA. And I just realized how many would-be rock stars are working in the beer industry, whether they are serving behind the bar, whether they are opening their own breweries. They all have this love for art, for music. They are finding both expression and employment in the craft beer industry. And that's what I really love. I mean, I like beer and I like metal. I love it when they cross over and find that shared expression. And I get to live vicariously through it because I'm a lifelong guitar player, but the only bands I've ever played in have fallen apart as quickly as they came together. But you two have legitimately lived that life, played in bands, and it has helped you directly connect to the beer industry, whether that was through touring, whether that was through collaboration beers. That is most metal, and I think it proves this theory, this thesis that all our shows are built upon. And I've had the good fortune of doing Vox and Hops, RRBG. You all have been on each other's podcasts as well. And the least I could do is bring you into the Knotfest Beer Pit to keep this going. Because even though our approach is a little bit different, we're doing it for the same reasons and the right reasons. And that is shared love and passion and enthusiasm for these two industries and the shared community therein. So thank you for that, gentlemen. Tell us just a little bit more so everyone at home knows just how do they watch your episodes, how many podcasts to date, how do they connect with RRBG and Vox and Hops if they haven't already?
You take it, Eddie. Go for it.
Oh, Well, first of all, I want to point out that I believe that us three, I said this before we started going live, but we are the unholy trinity of metal and beer. I think that we are in charge here of the scene. But anyway, you can find me at not Rock. I used to be at Rock and Roll Beer Guy. I changed it because some people started claiming that, oh, I don't drink beer, so I don't want to be on your show. I'm like, it's not about that. I'm the Rock and Roll Beer Guy.
Yeah.
You're talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drinking, not you. So I just shortened the name to RRBG Podcast. Just keep it simple. That way people don't even bother to ask, what does that mean? They just go. Um, and any RRBG podcast on all of the things: Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I have it all, and you can find all the episodes there. We just dropped episode 251 actually, which has Jim Johnston, who made all of the music for every wrestler's theme song that you can think of, like
So
Stone
cool.
Cold, The Undertaker,
Oh.
Razor Ramon, Ultimate Warrior. Like he's done it all, and most of those songs are metal as hell. You don't even realize it, So, there's that. The episode 250, the big 250, was actually, I planned it so that it landed on my 5th-year anniversary, which was very close to my 40th birthday. And I decided, bring back one of the biggest guests I had in year one, which was Braun from Mastodon. And thankfully, he had, 4 new beer collaborations as well to talk about, along with the new album, which is incredible. If you guys haven't heard it,
Not
go
yet.
check it out.
Nice.
It tugs at the heartstrings though, so be ready for a little bit of that.
Be
We
ready
have
to
some Mastodon
feel. Be
ballads to
ready
look
to
forward to.
feel.
Yeah, there's feels. He even said it, because most of the songs revolve around the death of their longtime tour manager, Nick Johns, and he was saying, I told him, I'm like, don't you feel sometimes like when you're on stage, like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have written a song about this because now I'm on stage crying. He's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. So, but yeah, there's tons. There's a little bit for everyone. There's a lot of metal. Kill switches on there. We've got Cradle of Filth. We've had obviously Matt and yourself, Adam. Tons and tons of bands. Lots of I've tried to mix it up. Like I said, we have some pro wrestlers on there. We have some comedians on there.
Mhm.
Pretty much anything that I find entertaining, I'm just going to bring it onto the show.
I've seen bands, I've seen brewers, I like comedians. What about the professional wrestling influence, man? Speak to that a little bit.
Oh, I mean, it's been a thing since I was a kid. I've loved pro wrestling. I tried doing it in high school a little bit and ended up hurting myself, so I really couldn't do it professionally. But, it's always been a passion of mine. I know a bunch of the boys at work. Josh Barnett's a big, pro wrestling personality.
Mm.
He's and also a huge metalhead, and we've become friends in the last few years. And, we live down the street from each other, so we get to hang out and do stuff. Stick around, watch, keep an eye on the podcast, social medias for some announcements on some stuff we're working on. But things are good with the pro wrestling world. It's coming back now that the pandemic is kind of easing up, so there's a lot more independent shows. I love going to those because they're kind of like punk shows or metal shows. You go, everybody's standing around, there's people flying off the ring into the crowd surfing, there's people drinking and having a good time. All the wrestlers have metal theme songs, like I said. So
Yeah.
it's a fun time. It's like a mosh pit, but professionals are doing some crazy acrobatics in the meantime in the middle of the mosh pit.
It is a fucking art and riot in its own right, man. And I love the crossover there with the beer industry as well. So I'm glad that you are all inclusive.
Oh yeah.
250 plus episodes over 5 years into your 40th birthday, man. I mean, I will say it again. Cheers. That is worth celebrating.
Cheers.
Matt, let's do the same. For those who don't know, they all soon will, but how do they connect with Vox and Hops? How many episodes to date? When was it founded? Who do you like to speak to? Tell us more about the podcast.
Sure thing. Vox and Hop started in October 2018. I just released episode 306 today. So 3 years, 306 episodes.
Whoa.
I typically drop 1 to 2 episodes a week. The first 100 episodes of Vox and Hops were basically just me hanging out with my friends, whether it be backstage, in a bar, in a tour bus, in their van. I've done it everywhere, behind the venue. And then eventually the pandemic hit, and I started to connect with people all across the globe, and I really saw that I could talk to anyone. Like it changed my game plan immensely. So I made it like a COVID list, and I've hit a bunch of those people. But I talked to metal musicians from across the globe. I talked to brewers, typically metal brewers. I like to keep it to that. I had on a few wrestlers recently. Eddy, you must have inspired me subconsciously because Heavy Montreal, which is Montreal's major metal promoter, was promoting a few wrestling events going on in town, the IWS, the International Wrestling Syndicate. So I did a few episodes with them to help promote those shows. Since the pandemic, Heavy Montreal has been presenting a Vox and Hops episode every week. And with them just now, I've teamed up to create my very own Metal and Beer Festival, which is happening on December 17th in Montreal. My band Cryptopsy is headlining with my friends in The Agonist. The Great Sabatini, Necrotic Mutation, and Burning the Oppressor are playing. And I really curated just like the coolest craft beer list for the night. I got like the top of the top Quebec breweries. Sorry, not metal breweries, but Quebec breweries. We got BG Brasserie Urbaine, Messorum Brassatorium, Cinquième Baron, Sir John Brewing Company, Brasserie du Bas-Canada, and Brasseur de Montréal. So I'm very excited for this. Tickets are flying. So I can't wait to do this. This is something when I did Vox and Hops Brutal North America, where I teamed up with metal breweries from across North America with Vox and Hops alumni. Eddy was one of those. We created 22 collaborative brews as a way for bands and artists to stay in contact with their fans throughout the pandemic. It was actually I was planting a seed to create actual shows around this brand, the Vox and Hops Brutal brand. And this Montreal first event is something that I'm hoping to grow into an actual tour that tours across North America, that we can have a true Vox and Hops Brutal North America happening, or we can have a Asia or Europe. The sky is the limit. As long as there's metal heads, metal bands, metal fans that want to enjoy good craft beer, I think that we can do it. You can find my podcast on all podcast platforms. You can also check out my website, voxandhops.com. That's voxandhops.com.
Most metal. You are flying the flag for beer and metal, not just in Canada and owning your backyard, man, but I followed the Brutal North America tour. I'm glad to see that this has the potential and the capacity to expand global, man. This is so exciting. And I still think metal fans get discredited. I mean, so many people see the early pictures of Metallica drinking Bud Light and Heineken, and they follow suit, man. They follow that example. I still think metal fans know better. We've got to give a shout here to Barnaby Struve, associated with Three Floyds and Wayfinder Beer, because I think he said it most eloquently. It's a matter of taste in music, in food, in beer, and life. So I think you all are tapping into still potentially untapped demographics, inviting metal fans into the craft beer industry. With my show, The Six Most Metal Breweries, we did a similar project in New York City, Matt. We threw an event called No Corporate Beer NYC with Trappist. Yes. We forced St. Vitus Bar to take down all their corporate beer and put up nothing but craft beer for
takeover. Amazing.
Celebration of heavy music and craft beer together. One final plug for my project, The Six Most Metal Breweries. The goal remains to bring people the 6 most metal eye-searing episodes per season, highlighting breweries, bands, bars, and where they all come together for any given city. 6 episodes per season. And once we get there, if it's successful enough, we're going to do 6 more. So with any luck, we'll go international, and I'll be able to come to you at some point, Matt. But I really appreciate you both flying the flag. Your thoughts on the future of the beer and the metal industries before we kind of get into specifics about what's coming up for you in Knotfest. What direction do you think it's heading in? Because obviously, everyone had their own problems, their own crisis on account of COVID. And I'll say again, there was a silver lining in that because everyone had to get crafty, and that's part of what led to the Knotfest beer pit. But it doesn't change the fact it's been a hard year for both industries. We're seeing touring coming back, bars have reopened, tap rooms have reopened, but there is a new normal that everyone's trying to figure out. So, what do you see as the future of these industries, the near future in both craft beer and heavy metal? What's on the horizon?
I think that people are just so hungry to go outside of their houses and to encourage, whether it be a band that they love or a brewery that they love or a business that they love, that people are going to flock to it.
Yeah.
As soon as these tours come through, and it is happening in the States now, up here in Canada, it's slowly opening up, much slower than what you guys are experiencing down in the States. Like we can finally have full capacity shows starting this coming Monday, November 15th. We have been doing just seated. Masks are always mandatory up here. But I think that people are so hungry and they want to go back to these events that they're going to. And I think that it's the same thing for the beer industry or the metal music industry. There's so many bands that have released music throughout this pandemic that they want to tour it. They want to get out there. They want to, becoming a musician, a large part of that is the performance aspect of it. Some people love being in the studio, but a lot of other people really don't enjoy that experience and much rather the performing their music to the people. So they've been sort of robbed of that. A lot of people that released albums in the first few months of the pandemic didn't get a chance to shine that record. So I think that everyone's going to be on tour. It's going to be massive rotating festivals just coming through everyone's city. The venues are going to be booked all the time. It's just up to the people in each city to go and support the things that they love, whether it be extreme metal or anything else that they love, or craft beer. Just support the things you love if you want them to still be around in the next few years. What do you think, Eddy?
I'm on the same thought process. I actually, to tie it all in together, I was at Knotfest here in LA, and it was a sold out stadium.
Amazing.
My first time inside of a sold out stadium, post pandemic. It's been a while since I've been in a stadium, period. And to see the energy, the entire crowd. Like, I'm used to seeing the front kind of go crazy, but the back was just kind of standing there. Everyone was going crazy. And it was an incredible energy that I felt there. So I think that we're ready for that. And like you said, I think all the bands are on tour. Everybody's on the road. I'm going to open up a beer too. Sorry, I got another Mastodon collaboration.
So cool.
Thin Man Brewing up northeast. I think Boston, if I'm not mistaken.
Buffalo, New York, my man. A lot of respect for Thin Man.
Savage Lands, Mastodon collab. But anyway, also RIP to Barnaby. You brought him up. I had him on the show. We hung out at Psycho Las Vegas in 2019 before his passing. But man, what a dude. That guy, pioneer, I gotta say. But going back to what I was saying, the music scene, you're looking at the most exciting year in music in a very long time. 2021. We have many albums, so many releases. Mastodon, even Limp Bizkit's got new music, for crying out loud.
Dude, that first track is so damn good.
It's good, man. Failure put out new music. Slipknot, freaking everyone's got new music. It's a good time to be a fan of metal and rock. I think that this surge is going to help bring back, because I remember back in the early 2000s, rock and metal were dominating the popular culture. Everything kind of switched. I don't remember what year, but I remember at one point, we were at the top of the world. And all of a sudden, just this collapse, and everything went back to how it used to be, where hip hop and dance music was dominating and country. But I think we're seeing another resurgence of rock and metal taking over. People want to go out. People have all these emotions pent up. They want to scream. They want to mosh. They want to get it all out. And I think it's a great time for that. Beer is the same thing. Beer was hit super hard during the pandemic. A lot of these breweries had to shut down, no on-premise drinking, so they had to they had to figure out licensing to get to-go beers, and all kinds of crazy things had to happen to breweries. I'm very happy that my buddies in Cosmic Eye survived the pandemic. A lot of breweries survived the pandemic, but some of them didn't. A lot of them shut down because if you don't have the foot traffic, a lot of these restaurants aren't buying your kegs because they can't have people inside. A lot of bars and restaurants aren't buying kegs because they just don't have it. So a lot of people got hurt real bad. But I think those that stood out and hung out and fought for it are now going to reap the benefits of all of this opening back up and everybody wanting to get drunk and have a good time. So I think we're in a good place right now for metal and beer.
Absolutely.
I think getting drunk and having a good time is at the core of it. Supporting what you love so that what you love may continue is at the core of it. I hope everyone out there speaks the same language because I relate so much to what you both are saying. I mean, I was a child of the 90s. I didn't have to go looking for heavy music, it came to me. It informed those years from teenager through college. And we're all natural born performers here. And the deeper I got into the beer industry, whether it was in sales or marketing or like especially events, I mean, I just thought this is fucking showtime, man. And it allowed me to connect with other people with all the same instincts that helped me bring the six most metal breweries to life. So these industries were crippled by the pandemic, right? And now people are hungry to get back. Like I witnessed the same thing in Knotfest, Iowa. A little bit of a culture shock coming out of LA, where there are still restrictions, there are still masks. Iowa was 30,000 strong. Slipknot on their home turf, homegrown, with nothing but friends and family looking to celebrate again. And you know what? I survived. Barely, but I survived. It was a good spirit, and everyone left ultimately happy. And I think you all are right. People want to get back to live shows. They want to get back to bars, to breweries, to tap rooms. So this is a good segue because I think you two have your work cut out for you. Like, as much as people want to support craft beer and heavy music, they want to get out, they want to have the human experience. So the question remains, how do we keep a DTC club rolling? How do we keep people ordering a home beer club that we're going to mail to your door? I did that with the November box, trying to import breweries from Europe, from Denmark, and Sweden that are not available in the US. And to me, it's a crowning achievement. It's a swan song. I am so proud to be able to bring Omegar and Glow and Odd Island and Tool to the United States for a drop when they're not available here otherwise. I want to hear what you have in mind. Like, without giving it all away, give us a sneak peek. I'll start with you, Eddy, for December, and then on to Matt for January. Tell us some breweries you're particularly excited to work with, maybe a beer you have in mind.
Sure. To answer your question, by the way, you said, how do we keep people interested in a, direct to customer? Well, it's the perfect thing to bring to a show. So, order your box of beer, go to a show, be like, hey, I got the Knotfest box, and everybody shares and has, tasting.
That's pretty cool, though. Yeah.
I think that's the answer right there. If you're not going to be home anymore, bring your box to the show. It's cool. I do it all the time. That's how the rock and roll beer guy was born. Like I got the nickname because I would show up to concerts with a cooler full of beer. I was the rock and roll beer guy. That was it.
So cool.
So do that.
I think you must have had a pass as a beer rep, man, because most, true to your name, RRBG, most venues don't want people bringing in outside products. Want you to drink their own.
You got to be smooth. You got to be smooth.
Hang out in the parking lot.
Be smooth. Yeah. So for anyone out there who's able to get a Knotfest Beer Pit box into their next live show, into their local...
No, it's a parking lot.
Either hang out in the parking lot or talk to the bands, tell them, hey, I'll bring you a bunch of beer, and you bring, get it done. It could be done. But anyway, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to curate a box. I mean, I think this is, even though this is kind of a relatively new thing and everything, I feel like it's been a long time coming that I can do something like this. Yeah. Because, like I said, I've been a fan of beer and metal for so long. A little sneak peek into December. One beer I will point out is not, when you look at it, it's not going to be the most metal thing you see. But I want you to understand that it was my creation.
Love it.
So while it may not be the most metal thing you see right out the bat, it's coming from a metal place, coming from my metal heart, my cold metal steel heart. So, forgive the fact that it doesn't have skulls and horns and Satan all over the can. Just drink it and know that I was the one responsible for making it. I won't give the name.
Kicked out of Catholic school.
That's right. Yeah. I was possessed by Satan. That's metal enough. But I won't reveal. I mean, if anybody knows who I am, they know what beer that is. But that's just a little teaser. But I'll say I'm really excited to work with Belching Beaver. They're going to be a part of the box. One of my favorite bands of all time, and I have no shame in saying it. Deftones are number one in my life. I mean, they've been from the beginning. They were one of, when I first started doing music, it was Deftones covers and Metallica covers. So, nice. And I've been fortunate enough to become friends with a couple of the guys in the band over the years. So I'm really, really proud, honored, and happy to be working with Belching Beaver, who makes really fantastic beer out in San Diego, and the Deftones. I'm not going to reveal the name of the beer, but they have a contract. They have about 5, 6, 7. I don't even know how many beers at this point. Maybe 8 beers. But one of those beers are going to be in the box. I know what it is, but you're going to have to order it to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the great thing is Belching Beaver is by and large West Coast only. So, I mean, if you're watching at home and if you're listening, I mean, a chance to get your hands on this is well worth it. Belching Beaver is world class. And Eddy, I've got to second what you said about Deftones. And we kind of talked about this when I did RRBG, man, because I don't know how I missed it originally. That's my fault. But somehow Deftones got me through the pandemic. It's a new thing for me. I think it was by and large a result of having Belching Beaver in one of the first Knotfest beer pit boxes. So I was able to go through and rediscover their entire catalog, start to finish. It's been the soundtrack of the last fucking year for me, and it's not slowing down, man. It's ongoing. And to know that Chino takes beer very seriously, is hands-on and involved with everything that Belching Beaver is brewing shows it's not just another like we're licensing out our name. It's again a mutual work of art between this band and that brewery, man. So I'm really glad you're going to bring it to the nation at large.
Absolutely. Chino's a hophead. Yep.
If the box is sold out, it is sold out. But my advice to you is get on it with it when it launches and give us a reason to keep it going and to order more beer and to put more boxes into the market. When they're gone, but it doesn't mean we can't get more, and it doesn't mean we won't do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah. It brings a bit of a, that LA, limited release kind of vibe to it. So, get on it, be a part of it. But yeah, Chino's a big hophead, man. And I'm glad that he's taking it seriously, much like the Mastodon beers. I've seen Braun out at the brewery, so he's taking it seriously. So it's not just slapping the name on a can. But yeah, Deftones to me, man, has always been one of the big ones because it fits all moods. There's raging. You can rage to Deftones. You can have sexy time with Deftones. It's all there, man. Deftones are the all around band.
There's some
sad, yeah, happy.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's all there, man.
Hell yeah.
Love it.
Matt, before we go to you, I have switched beers for the time being. I am drinking a Helles Lager. This is from Alewife out of Queens. New York City, still my home in so many ways, even though I'm in LA now. This was a collaboration with Eyes of the Sun. The bassist and vocalist in this band, Jeff Blanchard, also is a co-owner of Lucky 13 Saloon in Brooklyn, where I had a lot of quality nights. So I'm drinking a Helles Lager before I work my way back to shotgunning, or at least chugging a can of Flavor of the Wheat from Of Wolves and Low Res. But before we do, Matt, same thing without giving it all away. Tell us a brewery you're excited to work with, a beer you're proud of that's going to be featured in your box come January. Give us a sneak peek.
Absolutely. And to touch on your question about why people would keep buying it, why you should keep doing this, is because these beers that are going to be coming directly to your house, especially from my box, are beers that you cannot get.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing a full Canadian content. So every beer is from Canada. And I think that should be sort of the way that the boxes keep being curated, to keep them being very special beers, that if you want these beers, these metal beers, these hypothetical band collab beers that you cannot get your hands on, you should continue picking up your box of the Knotfest stuff, because it's the best stuff. It's going to be the best. From here in Canada, I collaborated with everyone that I did collaborate with. Were a part of Brutal North America, which can give a bit of a hint to people that knew who I worked with in Canada for that project. I am very, very excited to work with this brewery right here. And hypothetically, we've discussed having this exact beer being in the box. This is to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of the podcast. I teamed up with Overhop Canada, which is actually a Brazilian brewery that has now relocated here into Canada. They still have a brewery in Brazil, but it's like a sister company that's come up here. So much love to Overhop Canada. They're really the best humans I've ever met. Patty and Tatiana, Ricardo, excellent humans. So this is a double New England. 8.5%, just killer. It's the big brother, big sister of the beer that came out last year, the Voxen over hops, so the double Voxen over hops. Very excited about that. And I've also teamed up with another very, very metal Quebec brewery that have just transitioned their brews into cans. So they're re-fermenting in the cans, which is something wacky that doesn't happen very often. But they've succeeded, and it's actually delicious. So very, very excited to have them as a part of this. They actually brewed the very first Vox and Hops collab for my 1-year anniversary party. And then there's some people from the outside of Quebec that are involved, probably one of Canada's most hyped up breweries. They're extremely popular, and they were very excited to be a part of this. So there's so much to look forward to. I can't wait to see everyone just enjoying these Canadian beers, these Quebec beers. They're all metal. Everyone that I've picked, I was like, I want the most metal beer you make. I want it to look cool and to be just simply delicious.
I love the strategy, the message. I think so much of Knotfest and Slipknot's following are still discovering the beer pit for the first time. And it's true. I mean, I tried to tell a story and an arc with every box I put out there, and there was inevitably some pushback, like for breweries that are available regularly, that are available nationally. But from there, to go more and more niche, to get more and more specific and bring something to people that they cannot get otherwise, whether it is Belching Beaver from California that's not available throughout the Midwest onto the East Coast, whether the current box in November, the Knotfest Beer Pit Slayers edition, all imported from Scandinavia that you would never see in the United States otherwise, onward to January. I don't even know the Canadian craft beer scene in any detail because we don't really get it here, man.
No,
And
no,
the
you
whole
get
point,
Unibrew, and that's it.
that's it. The whole point is
And La Gabière from Montreal has just started distributing out into the States, which you guys should try out if you can. Yeah.
fair enough, man. But you are going to bring it here. And the fact that like the Knotfest beer pit can be a path to distribution, to sales, a conduit to a new audience. I mean, that's the whole point. So, if the box does sell out, I mean, I will say, jump on it when it launches, but just give us a reason to keep it going because we are trying to show you something new and different month to month. My plan is to come back every 6 months or so. I want to do another Beer Slayer box. I launched a comic strip with Adroit Theory Brewing, some of my best friends out of Virginia. I'm going to do another Beer Slayer box every 6 months with a new comic strip. So
Amazing.
give me reason to continue. And there's no reason that this should be a one-off for Eddy or for Matt. So from
I got more.
RRVG,
There's more in Canada.
from Boxed and Hops. So again, tell us who's on your wish list. Like, what are some other breweries? What are some other bands that you would just love to work with down the road and bring into the pit?
Oh, okay, man, that's a
I did pitch one, and they are the kings here in Montreal. Is a Masorum Brassatorium. They're really, they make the most hyped up. Fucking crazy beers. I don't know if you can swear here, but I did. It's Slipknot, so I think we
Want,
can. They did their 2-year anniversary party, and there was a 7-hour wait in the line.
Nice.
So it's just mad hype. It's actually ran by metalheads. Alex Eddy from Despised Icon runs the tap room. There's dudes that I've toured Canada with from The Last Felony, the dudes from Ion Dissonance that work in this place, and they've totally just changed the game here in Quebec. I would love to include this. I tried to get them into the first one, but they are purists about keeping the beer cold. So if the beer pit can find a way to keep the beer cold as we ship across nations, I think that would be super sick.
I have to speak to so for 2 reasons. So one thing that's going to be a really interesting challenge with you, Matt, is normally we want to keep beer cold, but I think coming from Canada out of January, we got to figure out how to keep it
warm. Actually, that's true.
Warmer, like closer to the room temperature, so
that's
it doesn't
true.
freeze. In the current box, the Slayers edition for November, we literally kept this beer climate controlled, shipping all the way from Amager.
That's good to know.
Outside of Copenhagen. So there is a will, there is a way. I've got to give a shout out to our retail and distribution partners. That is Agnes and Brian at Roselle Park Wines and Spirits. I mean, quality first, man. These beers are kept under cold storage from the moment they leave the brewery
Okay.
to the point that they arrive at Roselle Park, and they are kept in cold storage on site as all the beer sells.
Amazing.
So we can make that happen.
Okay, cool.
For
It's
now,
good to
let's
know.
just keep January from freezing, my friend.
For
RRBG, Eddy, what about you? Who's on your wish list? Be it a brewery, a band, not what's coming in December, but sky's the limit, man. Who would you like to work with?
So my goal is to kind of follow in the footsteps of Mr. Matt here, and I would like to have a series of RRBG collaborations, but just be bands with breweries that I love, and I want bands that enjoy drinking to have their own beer. And even if you don't enjoy drinking, if you're sober, that's perfectly normal too. That's fine. But
That is the
your
thing.
fans probably drink, and you should probably make some money from selling some beers to your fans. So there's a few bands that I want to work with. There's a couple that I'm talking to already that I'm not going to reveal because I don't want to jinx it. But there are some bands that I do want to work with. I would love to get Every Time I Die to get a beer going. They had a beer out with Thin Man and a couple, out there, Barrier as well.
Yeah,
But I'd love to work with Barrier or Every Time I Die to get a beer like that going. That's under the RRBG umbrella. Put that in the box. Bands like, Gojira. I would love to have
Yes.
Gojira in a box with
Gojira needs a beer.
collaboration beer for them would be great. Um, Nine Inch Nails, I think, would be amazing to have a Nine Inch Nails beer. I don't know. I think that eventually the goal for me is to have a series of collaboration beers between bands and breweries and have that be the box. Like the box will if it's my turn again, then it's all of the collaborations I worked on. Like I said, I have two right now that I'm talking to. I don't want to tease too much because again, I don't want to jinx it. But there's one particular band from Florida that's in the hardcore metal scene, and there's a punk metal band that I'm talking to out here in LA. And that's my goal. Is just try to get bands and breweries together. That's the RRBG way. So I'm stoked to continue moving forward with the Knotfest beer pit box. These beers are heavy.
So
7% and 8%. So
If I could do another one, I have a project that I've been sleeping on. I have the perfect name for like this curated multiple brewery band thing. It would be called Blast Beats and Wild Yeast.
Ooh,
That's the name of the project. So all the beers need to be wild, and then the drummers need to go into the room while it ferments and put blast beats into the beer.
Yeah. There's this whole theory out here about like music and vibration and fermentation. That'd be a really interesting experiment, man.
Blast beats and wild yeast. It works.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so first we have to get all the Heschers off Heineken and Bud Light onto the beer pit, and then into like wild yeast fermentation.
One beer at a time.
I love the ambition, man. I'm gonna share, like, I feel like if I could come back every 6 months or so and work with anyone I wanted, I owe Miskatonic a beer, which is out of Illinois. And I feel like you have worked with Mick before when he was
him.
Twitter, Matt.
Yeah, I love him so much.
Yeah, I want to bring Miskatonic into the pit.
He's watching right now for sure.
All right. And Eddy, you mentioned Barrier, man. So much love and respect for those beers. I would love to see Barrier Brewing in the beer pit at some point.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. There was one brewery I forgot to mention that I wanted to get involved. That hasn't been involved yet. Three Floyds.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's get Three Floyds in here already. 100%. What are you guys doing out there? Let's go.
So I'm not going to say too much, but I am going to say Three Floyds literally lives on the shelves of where the Knotfest beer pit ships from, but are not getting its blessing. So if you're out there, Three Floyds, and if you're listening, between the three of us, the unholy trinity of beer and metal, like Eddy said, get with the program. So
Chris and Todd, get on it. I don't know what you're doing out there. Let's go.
Come on,
they're very patient. They play their cards always very carefully.
It's true. And one more, My Dying Bride has done some really interesting collaborations. It's a British brewery. It's Darkland Brewery. I would love to see them in the pit at some point. So that is my wish list. So on that note, Holly, is there anyone else in the chat? Any other questions? Anything about future boxes coming up from RRBG and Matt at Box and Hops? Okay.
We
All right.
got we
I
got
am
of wolves yelling Barnaby and shotgun. I think they want us to
Barnaby.
shotgun a beer.
It's coming. It's coming. Yeah. All right. I'm going to finish up my Eyes of the Sun Hellas. We're going to move towards shotgunning and chugging a beer together. So my strategy was session wheat ale, a Hellas for the duration. RRBG, I'm really proud of you doing nothing but 7 and 8% IPAs. And the same with you for that
Gotta
matter,
keep it
Vox and
heavy.
Hops. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say to Knotfest Beer Pit fans and subscribers out there before we do this?
Sure, just be open to new things. Try new beers. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid of ABVs, but be responsible when you do enjoy the higher ones. Drink some water in between them. Hangovers suck, and you need to learn from them.
Oh
But
yeah.
be open to trying new beers. Don't stick to one style. Don't just drink shitty beers.
Yeah.
Try new things. You can be a dude that enjoys Coors Light, and that's cool. But every once in a while, order something different.
Wise words. Well said. And Matt, I know on your show you ask everyone what their hangover cure is.
That's
Do you
my
have
wrap
one of
up.
your own?
I suffer in silence.
Oh,
That's not true. That's not true. Actually, my hangover cure are fruited sours, which is a smoothie beer. It's like all the rage up here, and I think it's the rage happening in the States too. Basically, a kettle sour that they pump full of fruit puree into it. It makes me feel good because it's got alcohol in it, and then it also makes me feel good because it's got some fruits in it. It sort of just balances things out, but it really does help me. Yeah.
nice. Nice. Eddy, for you, man, any words for Not Best Beer Pit fans and subscribers out there?
Just keep it going. There's always going to be something new and interesting in the craft beer world. That's just one of the things that got me hooked on it, is just discovering new beers. The community aspect of it is huge. That's why I thought that, bringing the beer pit box to a show, drinking it in a parking lot with some friends. If you see another group of people drinking in their car, just call them, "Hey, I got some crazy beers," and you guys drink it all together.
Friends
I
for
can't,
life.
that's it. You
Yeah.
become friends. It's like a friendly community, and I think that just keep going at it. Let it grow on you. My wife, for example, hated beers when I first met her, and now slowly hanging out with me, she's requesting that I go get her beers. So I'm telling you, if you think you hate beer or you think you hate an IPA, try another one. Try a different one. You
Mhm.
hated this West Coast IPA, try a double IPA from somewhere else. Try a hazy, try a juicy, try a smoothie, whatever. There's so many
It's
options.
endless.
It's so
Yeah.
much more diverse than wine, for the love of
Mm.
God. I mean, I could be a sommelier if I wanted to be, but it's boring. So get beer in your life and
And
become a
it's
cicerone.
I love it. I think in the course of this conversation, without saying it, Eddy has told us what he really thinks about wine, about hip hop, dance
Hey, I like hip
music.
hop. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I like hip hop. I
and it is
like
very
good. I like good hip hop. No,
Yeah.
no auto tuning. Just real stuff. Nas
Yeah.
and you know Talib Kweli. Let's go. But
Yeah.
be real about it.
Fair enough, man. And I hear you both saying there is a world out there to discover in craft beer, in heavy music. So discover it with us. And I think at this point, it's appropriate to chug a beer. Holly, voice of God. If you don't have a beer, I think you should fill your Dr. Pepper with Jack Daniels. Whatever you can do to join with.
Look what I got here. I
oh
got
All
a
right.
knife. I
There she
got a
goes.
knife.
Nice.
I got a knife,
Um,
and look at what I got here, Matt. Thanks to you, sir.
oh,
no, you
oh.
still got one of those? Oh boy,
I saved
Before we
one.
I never
before we
tasted
do
that.
this, speak to the collaboration because it's true. You all have made a beer together.
There you go.
Nice.
All right, Holly, voice of God. Wine has a time and a place. It is my beer hangover cure. Actually, that's what
Really,
I figured
Ah,
out since I did Vox and Hops. Matt,
really.
wine will ground me if I am hungover on beer. So we're gonna do this together in 1 second. If you are watching from home, get a cold can ready. Whether you chug it, whether you shotgun it. The goal, according to Low Res and Of Wolves, is 15 seconds. So we're gonna do this together in just a moment. Eddy and Matt, speak to your previous collaboration because you all made a beer together and there are no accidents. Tell us what
Yeah,
it is and how it came about.
it was super easy. It was for Brutal North America. So basically, I hit up Eddy and I said, "What kind of beer do you want to make? Who do you want to work with?" And actually, no, it's not true. It was with Sam from Cosmic Eye. He was one of the first few people that I hit up when I was setting up Brutal North America, and I tried to get a band from him, and it didn't work. And he was like, "Well, I could just make a beer with Eddy," and I was like, "That makes perfect sense." And then I hit you up, and then this all happened. And then you guys just hashed out what style of beer you guys wanted. So talk about what exactly that is.
Yeah, I it's funny because we were trying to, when you hit me up, I was like, oh, who do I work with? Like, I'm like, you know what? Cosmic Eye. Those are my homies. I was trying to find an LA brewery to make it, local, but
exactly.
like, who cares? Those are my boys. That's my boy, Sam. And shout out to Sam. We talked about it back and forth for a while. And, I've gotten to the point in my craft beer life that crispy boys are the way to go. Because I like getting drunk and I want something quick and easy. And this is a very light 4% lager. We called it a modern American lager. Very interesting hop choices that we got, and it's very crushable. That's what I wanted. I wanted a concert crushable beer. But thanks to this collaboration, thank you, Matt, for being for inviting us. Now Sam and I are probably going to make another beer.
Good.
So
that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
We're going to keep making beers. RRBG beers are going to keep coming from Cosmic Eye, and hopefully we get it distributed around the country. But yeah, this is the I don't really listen to podcast collaboration beer.
That's what he said. Sam says, I don't listen to any podcasts except for you guys as 2 podcasts.
Yeah, man.
And shout out to Yakima Chief Hops for hooking up all the breweries with 2 big boxes of hops.
Also, Heartbeat hot sauce.
Yeah,
hot sauce.
Yeah.
On the can.
Like a machine. Sam, if you're listening, you're one of the nicest motherfuckers I have ever met in the beer industry. We hugged at the height of the pandemic on a road trip, and I am glad we did, man. And everyone survived and lived to tell the tale. All right, we're going to do this. So, Holly, get your wine ready. Matt and RRBG, whether you're chugging, whether you're shotgunning.
I'm shotgunning.
Give you the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and let's go, gentlemen.
Fantastic beer, my God. Why is it so easy to drink? Sam, stop it.
We did it. I cannot think of any more ceremonial way of passing the torch for the Knotfest Beer Pit onto RRBG podcast for December, onto Vox and Hops podcast for January. I spilled a little bit on my shirt here, and I'm proud I did. I really, really enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to see what you all do in the pit. So, unless there's anything else from you, Eddy, from you, Matt, I've got to give my shout outs. I've got to give my thanks to all the people who make this possible. But please tell us more. What do we have to look forward to in December and January? Anything else for anyone watching out there in Twitch land?
You go for it. Eddy, go for
it. I'm still recovering from the shotgun. Yeah, keep an eye out on RRBG. More episodes coming. I got like 6 in the bank, and some names that you're not expecting. I'm gonna keep getting some unique guests. It's really I'm not a unique podcast. There's a bunch of other metal podcasts out there that when a band puts out a new album, they make the rounds and they do their press cycles, and and I love talking to some of these bands because I'm a fan, but also I want to keep it unique. So I try to bring people in that are not going to be doing podcasts with other people. So you'll find that. I know next up is Gavin Rossdale from the band Dredge, who barely, do podcasts. They barely talk to people there, but they got a lot of big announcements. And I guess I haven't seen it anywhere. So you'll be getting some new announcements on Monday when I drop the episodes. I typically drop them on Monday. So check that out. I'm also in the process of trying to, maybe I shouldn't put this out there because I might jinx it, but I'm in the process of trying to sell a travel version of this podcast where I go to breweries and hang out with musicians at the brewery and try to make these collabs that I was talking about happen. So we're working on that, trying to make that happen. And then I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it, but there's a festival happening here in Los Angeles. Ooh, hello, doggo.
That was not mine. That was not mine. I have a new puppy at home, but not guilty. Holly, voice of God, I think that was you.
Yeah. So there is a big festival happening here in Los Angeles that involves metal and beer. I don't want to step on any toes, but if you know what I'm talking about, come
Yeah.
hang out with me. I'm going to be hosting the VIP party and drinking with some breweries and some metal bands and having a good time and interviewing some bands. So, yeah, come check out if you go to the podcast page, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Very sick.
I'll
Yeah.
see you there, buddy. And Matt,
Yeah.
anything else in the not too distant future, man? Anything you want to leave people with before we sign off?
Absolutely. Of course, I got to push again. Brutal Montreal. I'm so excited to have my own metal festival, beer festival in my hometown. It's
amazing.
been long coming. I think it's just super cool. For what's coming up in January, it's going to be the coolest shit here from in Canada. Just the best metal breweries, and I'm just proud that here in Canada there are so many metal breweries, especially from here in Quebec. There's just something in the water up here. That's why there's so many extreme metal bands. A bunch of crazy episodes coming up. Right after January and February, I got Sober February, which I'm booking right now. I do that every year where I do a whole month's content framed about having a balanced relationship with alcohol, which is something that's very important that us that does things like these, we need to spread the word about that. As much as I like enjoying craft beer, I like to enjoy it responsibly, and I hope that all of my listeners do as well. Yeah. So I'm booking episodes right now, interviews right now for that, and it's looking really good. A bunch of really prominent musicians and past guests from the podcast that are now sober are going to come back to talk about their journey. I think that's super cool, and I can't wait to share that with everyone.
Most metal.
One
please
last
drink
thing.
responsibly, even though we just chugged right.
Hey, I'm home. We're home right now.
Yeah.
But no, real quick, I forgot to mention. I heard Matt talking. I forgot to mention. So to looking forward to December for the box. Just any beer. I've lived in the East Coast for a long time, and now I live in the West Coast. So I wanted to bring a little bit of both sides and just combine it. So stuff that's available only on the West Coast will be going to the East Coast. Stuff that's only on the East Coast will be available on the West Coast. Anything that's related to me and what I enjoy, that's what's going to be in the box. So keep an eye out for the December box. I think it's going to be fun.
I love it.
I love it. I love it. And in the course of this, I've been reminded why I eventually had black T-shirts printed from the Six Most Metal Breweries, because not only does it show beer stains, it shows pit stains. So for any of my cast and crew that's watching out there, keep it metal. I've got to give so much love and so much thanks to everyone who has made the Knotfest Beer Pit possible. It starts with you, Holly, our producer, for chugging, shotgunning wine with us in the midst of the pit. Yeah, seriously. And 5B, Matt has also produced some of these shows. Chris Hudson, their marketing director. Audrey, the incredibly talented graphic designer who gives the Knotfest Beer Pit its identity. Thank you so very much. I cannot speak. I cannot sing the praises more of Roselle Park Wines and Spirits, Agnes and Brian, our distribution and retail partner. When all this started, I was really skeptical that it was possible and that it was legal. It is harder to ship beer in the United States than it is wine or liquor, and there's various
it's the worst merch item ever.
Right? And then not to mention from Canada, not to mention from Europe, but they have helped me beat the system and beat the odds, and they really brought every box to life as well as to your home. So for everyone out there has ordered a single box of the Beer Pit, we are grateful for it. Thank you for keeping this project going. Go to knotfestbeerpit.com right now. Check out the November Slayers box. Get your hand on some beers from Europe that would never be available in the United States otherwise, and watch for the December box from RRBG Podcast, and then January from Vox and Hops. So until then, for now, I am signing off as your humble beer slayer. I am going to say, keep it metal. We will see you in the pit again. And most metal thanks to you, Eddy, at RRBG, and to you, Matt, at Vox and Hops. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.